Joining me now is the Democratic candidate in New York 26, Kathy Hochul. She is back for her third time on the show. As I've said, unfortunately, her two main opponents, Jane Corwin and Jack Davis, still have declined our requests to come on. And so Kathy is here. Kathy, nice to see you again.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks for having me.
Just for the record, though, I am not going to have you co-host. But other than that, welcome.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have just about a week left in this, just as of today, just a week. And we're seeing this coming down to the wire. Right now, there are a lot of attacks going on, and I'd like to just play a snippet of an ad, the first ad that the National Republican Congressional Committee has played in the 26th. Let's just take a look at that for a second.
And meet Kathy Hochul, who said about Pelosi.
Yeah, she's done a great job for this country.
Great job? Pelosi pushed through the failed stimulus that created green jobs in China, while unemployment soared in Western New York.
Okay, so obviously they are trying to tie you to the House Minority Leader now, no longer the Majority Leader. You have not seen this ad, I understand?
No, I don't spend a lot of time watching television ads these days. I'm actually talking to voters about issues that matter. So, but I'll take your word for it. It's out there.
Well, I'm just curious, how would you have voted on the stimulus? We're talking about a couple years ago now, but how would you have voted on that?
Yeah. Well, let me just tell you, the premise of the ad shows that you're trying to implicate that I'm following the direction of Nancy Pelosi or any other person. And my record in this district has been very strong. Willingness to stand up to my own party. We've talked about this before. And,
we have.
Even the person who appointed me, Elliot Spitzer, appointed me to my position, and within 5 months I was standing up to him. So all this distraction about leadership in Washington, no one's talking about it, Liz. I've been all over this district. Not one person has raised this. They are more afraid of the Medicare issue, the proposal in Washington to decimate Medicare, and those are the words of the Wall Street Journal, not my own, and Medicare as we know it. So you know what? It's the end of the game here, and they're just trying to throw everything at the kitchen sink at me, and it's not sticking. They've been talking about Nancy Pelosi since day one, my first day as a candidate. Well, March 21st, there was a Kathy Hochul's Nancy Pelosi ad, and for me to be still very much neck to neck in a Republican district shows the voters don't care.
Right. Well, but she did turn up at a fundraiser for you in New York City. I mean, obviously you have the support of the Minority Leader, and you don't regret, do you, saying that you believe that she did a good job? She has done a good job?
No, you know, let me tell you, that event was it was co-hosted by Senator Schumer in New York City a week ago, and I was very honored to have him and members of Congress attend. And I got off the plane to attend the event. I heard that Leader Pelosi was dropping by. So, you know, to implicate from that I'm somehow going to be listening to anybody but the people of this district is just so disingenuous. And again, I'm out there on the streets. And I was in Batavia this afternoon at a small restaurant, and the people say those ads are getting so nasty and so out of touch that I think it's actually backfiring.
Well, that's actually, and that's something that we've seen in a number of races, that negative ads can be a problem. Just getting back to the stimulus, I mean, do you have an idea of how you might have voted on that?
I'll tell you what I think about the stimulus. Is I happen to know that over 40 to 50% of the stimulus was for tax cuts. So I have no trouble with giving tax cut to people, particularly in a difficult time when we were in the middle of a recession. And let me tell you about Western New York. In Erie County, as the county clerk, I see issues related to housing and home ownership and real estate and purchase of cars. Your biggest purchases come to my office, so I have a real good pulse of what's going on here locally. So when there's a need to help bail out this economy, I understand that, because we have automotive industry here and manufacturers and people, we need to keep those jobs going. So I support those efforts, and I also support giving tax breaks to the people who need them. Now those are the people who are middle class, the small businesses who create the jobs in this district. But where I draw the line is continuing tax breaks for the absolute mega wealthy in this country, the millionaires and billionaires. Again, a big difference between myself and Jane Corwin. When times are tough, we have to be willing to make difficult decisions, and that's what I'm willing to do. So in this race, people are getting a huge difference in candidates. No longer is it the usual, they're all the same. I cannot think of greater contrast than we have between the candidates in this election.
Okay, but just to be clear, in terms of voting, that means that you do support the 40% of it, I believe was the number that you said, it were tax breaks, and that subsequently you would have supported that.
Well, there's look at where we were at the time. We are on the brink of financial collapse. We needed to do something to get our economy going again. We almost lost our banking, our financial institutions, GM. If we hadn't helped out GM, I'm not sure we'd be having the thousands of jobs that are still in this country today. So it's easy to look back. Hindsight is 20/20. I'm more interested in looking forward.
Okay, let's look forward then, because Medicare, as you brought up, is a big issue. And now you see the Republicans trying to pin on you the support, the alleged support of cutting Medicare. And I think that they're basically...
That is laughable, Liz.
They're basically hinging this all on your comment, your one comment during the debate, in which you said everything should be on the table when it comes to cutting spending and budget talks. Quote, entitlements, defense spending, but also revenues. I mean, what did you mean by that? Do you want to clarify that?
Well, I don't need to clarify because everyone in this district knows what I mean by that. I have been on the forefront of this issue since the Ryan budget was passed, and Jane Corwin said she would have voted for it. She cannot take back those words. In fact, even today, with Newt Gingrich backing off from issues like that, Jane Corwin is digging her heels in and continues to support it. What I meant and have been saying since day one, I will not support a program that eliminates the promise we made to our seniors and breaks that contract and replaces that with a voucher program. Now, underlying all that is the need for entitlement reform. We have to get the underlying costs under control that are driving health care, and I think we should be looking very closely at the prescription drugs. I will not go to Congress and be bought off by the pharmaceutical companies like I think the Republican Congress has been, because there are ways we can cut the costs. I mean, why we aren't leveraging our buying power for all the beneficiaries of Medicare like we do for the people who get their services from the VA hospitals, I'll never know. But I want to go to Washington, ask those tough questions and say, I've got ideas on how to get costs under control, but I refuse, and this is where I draw the line in the sand, could not be a clear difference. I will not replace a guaranteed program to help our seniors that was put in place to keep them from falling into poverty. I will not replace that with a voucher program, sending our seniors out on their own with an $8,000 check. Good luck. Not doing that. Okay,
so the Corwin campaign is now saying, well, you did support, or you have expressed support for the president's health care reform law. And they say that you actually supported the part that trimmed $500 billion from Medicare. You say not necessarily. Could you see voting in favor of anything, any measure which the Republicans have been putting forward to repeal any part of the health care reform law?
I've been asked about this from day one as well, and my position has been crystal clear. I have said that the health care bill is not perfect. It's far from perfect.
Right.
But I'll tell you what I do support. That is the continuation of the programs that give tax breaks to small businesses who offer health insurance to their employees. I think that's important. And if you're against the Ryan budget, you're basically saying, I don't think those businesses should get those breaks. If you support the Ryan budget, you have said that you do not favor covering pre-existing conditions. I won't go there either. I think it's great that we can have someone who's got a disease as a young child will continue to have coverage their entire life, unlike proponents of the Medicare, of the Ryan budget, which would just throw that provision under the bus. I also think it's great as a mom of a 21-year-old just graduated from college and a 23-year-old that I can continue keeping them on my health insurance until they're 26, because unlike a generation ago, when many of us had jobs to go to that covered our insurance, this young generation, they're smart, they're educated, they're looking for that first job, and they're just not getting it. So I like the security of knowing that my kids are covered.
Okay.
The supporters of the Ryan budget eliminated that as well. So there are parts of it I support. I also I'm glad they fixed a provision I had a real problem with, and that was the 1099 requirement.
Right.
Too much burden on small business is harmful. So for them to paint me as saying I supported the whole package, again, just look at their record. They're way out there on a lot of issues.
Okay, so there are certain pieces, for example, the one that you just brought up, that you could have seen yourself voting yes on the repeal of then.
Like I said, looking backward, I would say that there are sections that I support. Today, in 2011, to say, let's throw it all out and start over, we've got too many issues in front of us.
Okay.
We've got to get spending under control in Washington. So I think we shouldn't relitigate these issues, but continue to fine-tune. Just as when Social Security was passed 70 years ago, I guarantee a lot of people weren't happy with it. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed. And so let's continue fixing what's wrong with the health care bill. And I do object to the fact that it didn't really address the underlying cost of health care as much as it should. So let's keep that going. We've got more jobs to do, more work to do on it.
Okay, before we run out of time here, unfortunately, let me just ask, do you believe that Jane Corwin should reprimand her chief of staff for this alleged assault video situation with Jack Davis? I mean, he was obviously, he's working for her. She says he was doing it on his own time, but of course we haven't seen him since. Do you believe that she should have reprimanded him?
My position is that it happened under my watch. That person would have been fired within 15 minutes or less. She can make her own decisions. I wouldn't tolerate that behavior. I think it was very inappropriate.
And of course, would you call?
Especially with the taxpayers. The taxpayers are paying the salary.
Would you call on her or on the Erie County GOP to release that second tape, where we've been looking for this? Supposedly there was another tracker. The batteries allegedly died in the video camera in that tracking video. Do you believe that?
That's between them and the Jack Davis campaign. They're having, that's their battle. But I would say that when you watch any ads that come out against me, the Corwin campaign is obviously masterful at clipping video and using it inappropriately. So I think we've seen a lot of evidence of that in this campaign.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Kathy Hochul. 1 week to go. We at Capitol Tonight will be up in the Buffalo area, so we're looking forward to that. Should be a very interesting race. Thanks again for your time.
For sure. Thanks, Liz.